Planting without a plan is like throwing seeds into the wind. In order to grow a garden that truly thrives, you need to know your season, your sun, and your space inside out. Today I'm sharing the must-know steps to prepare your garden for success from day one. Before you can plan what to plant, you really need to understand your season. Where you live determines when it's safe to plant outside, how long your vegetables have to grow, and which varieties will produce before the frost returns. Your growing season is based on two main dates. Your last frost date is the last time temperatures drop below 0 degrees Celsius. This tells you when it's generally safe to move frost-tender seedlings outdoors. Your first frost date is the first time the temperatures drop below 0 degrees Celsius. This tells you when frost-tendered plants will likely get damaged or die. The days between those 2 points make up your frost-free growing season. Basically, the amount of time you have to grow frost-tender crops like tomatoes, peppers, cucumbers, squash, beans. For example, if your last frost is around June 15th and your first frost is around September 30th, you have about 110 days of frost-free growing. And this really matters when you're choosing what to grow. Some vegetable varieties mature very quickly, while others take much longer. If you pick a squash variety that takes 120 days to mature, but you only have 107 days in your growing season, that plant may never produce a good harvest. If you're wondering how to find your frost dates, my go-to resource is the Old Farmer's Almanac. They offer a free lookup tool where you can enter your location and get your average first and last frost dates. I'll put a link to the website in the description below. Keep in mind that frost dates are averages. Some years you might see an earlier or later frost. It's a good idea to stay flexible and to watch your weather forecasts as the season approaches. Also, with shifting climate patterns, these days can shift over time, so it's a good idea to check your first and last frosts every year. Now, a quick note on growing zones. You'll often hear about the USDA hardiness zones or the Canadian plant zones. These are based on your average lowest winter temperatures. Zones are really important for perennials like fruit trees, berries, some herbs and flowers that come back year after year and need to survive a winter. When it comes to annual vegetables, your frost dates are more important than your growing zone. Most vegetables that we grow in Canada are annuals. That's why when you look at the back of a seed packet, you won't see growing zones listed. Instead, you'll see instructions like start seeds indoors 6 to 8 weeks before your last frost, or plant outdoors after the danger of frost has passed. All of that is based off your frost dates, not your zone. The next thing you'll want to understand is how the sun moves across your garden throughout the day. A simple way to do this is using a compass. You likely already have one on your phone. Stand in your garden and find your 4 main directions: north, south, east, and west. Ideally, you'll want your main growing area to face south. Here in the northern hemisphere, the sun travels in a southern arc across the sky. That means south-facing gardens get sun from morning all the way to the evening. This creates more consistent sunlight, a warmer growing space, especially in the spring and fall, better growing condition for sun-loving crops. Vegetables like tomatoes, peppers, squash, and some herbs do best with lots of direct light, and south-facing areas give them the best chance to thrive. Once you've found south, the next step is to see if anything is blocking the light throughout the day. On a sunny day, go out and observe your garden at a few different times. Around 8 a.m., around noon, around 3 p.m., and around 6. Pay attention to where shadows fall from your house, fences, trees, and other structures. You can even place small sticks or markers in the ground to show where the shadows hit at different times. This will give you a really clear picture of which areas stay sunny and which areas are shaded. Here's what you'll usually notice. Morning sun areas are east facing, getting light early in the day but stay shaded later. These tend to be cooler and gentler. Afternoon sun areas are west facing. They are shaded in the morning but get stronger and hotter sun in the afternoon. Midday sun areas are south facing, usually have the less shade around noon, and are the sunniest spots overall. Not all plants need the same amount of sun. While tomatoes and peppers thrive in full sun areas, getting 6+ hours of sun a day, leafy greens and spinach benefit from some afternoon shade. Understanding your sun patterns help you put the right crops in the right area. If you're planting your garden right now during the winter months, there's something actually really helpful that you'll notice. Because the sun sits so much lower in the sky during the winter, right now is when we have the longest shadows of the year. These long shadows show you the worst case scenario for shade in your garden. If an area is getting good light while the shadows are at their longest, you can be confident that it'll get strong light during the growing season. This makes it easier to map out which areas are full sun, getting 6+ hours of sunlight, and which areas are shaded. Once you understand your growing season and where the sun is hitting your garden, the next step is to figure out how much space you're working with. This doesn't have to be complicated. I use a simple measuring tape to measure the width and length of each of my garden beds and growing area. Once I have those measurements, I draw my garden out in Excel. I use it like graph paper. Each square represents 1 square foot, which makes it easy to plan where everything will go. You can use Excel, graph paper, or a notebook, whatever works for you. If you use trellises, cages, or any other vertical gardening, factor that into your layout too. Vertical growing can increase your yield without taking additional ground space. This is also a great time to get your record keeping in order. Keeping actual records is one of the most valuable parts of successful garden planning. Document what you plant, where you plant it, and how each crop performed throughout the season. I do this in Excel, but use whatever system feels comfortable. You can even use simple notes. You'll want to track planting dates and seed varieties, your garden's layout and spacing, and harvest times and yields. It's also helpful to add notes about pests or disease issues, unusual weather, or anything else that affects your garden. Over time, your notes become your own personal garden reference that you can rely on season after season. When you know exactly how much space you have, you can fit the right number of plants into each bed, design your layout intentionally, and make the most of every inch of growing space. This helps you get bigger harvests without guessing and makes the garden much more organized and manageable. Now that we understand our growing season, how sunlight moves throughout our garden, and how much space we have to work with, we're well on our way to planning a thriving garden. These are the basics that are the foundation for success. In the next video, we'll talk about deciding what to grow and how much of it to plant.